nice reset and a new market beginning, right? That for me is what we are paying attention to now. So yes, it's a little bit scary, okay? But after this, once we get through these major phase, we start again, right? And I am seeing this wedge, we could be looking at a possible 160, 180K Bitcoin in the future, right? But for now, we're obviously in the downside that we need to pay attention to. So again, if we look at timing wise, right, I'm still looking at a possible bearish, boring type of next 2-3 months. We're getting acceleration now, but at some point we're going to slow down. Okay, and I want to show you what that kind of looks like. It looks like this over here, right? So let's go here to the weekly and just show you. The last times we kind of find these lows and these last accelerations. So previously before we did have a little bounce, right? And I do think we're in two places here. We're either here, right? And we're starting a new low pullback, okay? Or we are here, which means new lows, but it does mean soon after that, the cycle starts to reset, okay? And if we look at this, it was a very fat red candle that came out of nowhere, okay? And then after, which is quite important, right? The after was literally 6 weeks of the market just not doing anything. We saw Bitcoin sit at $15,000 to $18,000 for at least 8 weeks. And then after that, we started the major rise up. So if we are going into fast acceleration point now, I'm expecting a bounce, and then I am expecting the market to get quite sad and boring for a few weeks. But then after that, I do think we can have a strong finish into Q4, and I do think things are rallying and setting us up for a good 2027, right? Again, we get to do it all again. Okay, so when it comes to Bitcoin itself, let's jump into the charts here and go through the next major supports. Okay, so next big supports for me, we are sitting at a support right now, which means over the next couple of days, we could be looking at two basic options, right? Are we going to go in a straight line, or are we going to see a temporary bounce? Okay, if we are going to see a temporary bounce, right, there's a big important Fibonacci level we are about to hit. And this level sitting here at $65,000. So that means right now you're sitting with two supports. You're sitting with one support at 65,000, okay? And you're sitting with another support. Let's just make this line a little bit clearer here. You're sitting with another support between $58,000 and $62,000. Okay, so if we are going to bounce at 65, I don't think that 65 will be the bottom. Okay, again, these are just charts and information. But what it's showing me is we could see a temporary bounce in the market, and then we could see a next flush down, and then possibly a very strong bounce. And after that, a nice little consolidation period. Okay, but that for me is kind of the plays that I'm paying attention to. I don't see any major reversals just yet. If we had to see a reversal this week, we needed to see Bitcoin close back above these levels over here, which is around $78,000 by the end of the week. Basically meaning that it got the whole market, everyone to think that we are super bearish, but ultimately trapped them out. And that will come down to this weekly chart here. You can see that we're starting to create a strong candle, okay, a nice big engulfing candle. We literally took 6 weeks of growth to be removed, and 50% of it was removed from this last week in general, or this last candle that we're seeing here. In order for me to say that this was fake, right, I need to see this entire candle get absorbed and turn green, right, which is basically between the $74,000 and $75,000 zone. Until then, we have to think bearish. We have to think possibly new lows, right? So when I zoom in again, that is kind of the plays of what I'm looking at now. Is at any point a possible bounce, okay, which is the first play, a bounce up to these areas over here, and then we look at downside. If we lose this big next zone, let's speak about the bearish zone. Okay, if we lose it, we need to start thinking about the golden zone or golden pocket entries, right? For me, it will be a very, very important buy with whatever you can if we do get these zones, right? But if we lose this trend, we're then going down to the next major supports, right? It takes us down to a very big high time frame Fibonacci as well. And we're basically looking at around $48,000 to $50,000. Okay, and if this range is a little bit bigger, we could possibly even see $42,000. Now, I don't want to think that just yet, but I need to know there's a high possibility it can happen, right? It's so long, so silent at the moment. We'll speak around Solana. We've got tons of altcoins to speak about in the show today. Okay, but that for me, however, we have to get through this area here first for me to think that that is a possible option, as we are coming into a strong momentum trend over here, as well as these previous supports. Now, what I do think is going to happen, right? What I'm seeing is going to happen here is I do think we're going to make a new low. And I think it's really going to freak the market out. And that for me is a time of where a trap can come into play. So again, the plays that I'm seeing right now off the charts is I'm seeing a push up over here, okay, and then a push down, then something like that, okay, or we're going straight down in a straight line today, okay, and for me, it's the same thing. So previous low over here is at $60,000. So if we decide to go straight down now, I'm seeing us go anywhere between this 58, maybe even 57,000, okay, then trapping and doing something like that. By us losing these lows, right, we'll get everyone to think $40,000, and it'll be the perfect time to trap them. Now, on that bounce that we see up over here, if we don't get past here, we could still very much go there a little bit later on, okay? But I am looking for this sneaky bounce here, as this might be the real bounce, or it might be that little drop off there. So just keep that in mind when everyone turns incredibly bearish. Might be one of the perfect times to kind of see a reversal, which means I'm buying something at 58 to 60,000. Okay, I need to keep cash flow. But for me, if we look at the last couple of years or the last couple of months, Bitcoin has been quite expensive compared to the rest of the market. Altcoins are cheap. Bitcoin's been expensive, right? ETH's still been a little bit expensive. Solana's been a little bit expensive, right? All three of these are starting to get incredibly cheap right now. And Bitcoin dropping and coming into the 50,000s, for me, starting to get cheap, right? And therefore, I want to buy one of the best assets, if not the best asset in crypto, right? Is I want to be buying at those levels. Okay, so there's the plays over there. Now, I want to speak around the altcoins for a sec, because the altcoins, I think, are it's going to get a little bit worse, in my opinion. And I think it's only just started. Okay, so if you look at what's kind of been happening recently, right? Bitcoin did lead the dump. Bitcoin has started the reversal and starting the weakness a lot quicker, okay? But that doesn't mean that altcoins aren't going to have a strong reaction. Now, again, I do think alts are stronger. And why? Because dominance is tanking, guys. Dominance is definitely dropping hardcore to the downside right now, okay? But does not mean that they're not going to dump too, right? It just means that there's some altcoins that can have ridiculous pumps in between us, okay? But it also means that, hey, it's time for Bitcoin, ETH, and Solana to catch up to the rest of the market. When the whole market's sitting down 90%, and these also, or Bitcoin itself is only sitting down 40% from the highs, right? There's a time for a catch-up. And I think this is a real high time frame or high market cap catch-up right now. We are flushing out the big dog. But that means after this flush out, you're going to have oversold altcoins, right? Your micro, your medium caps, you're going to have oversold majors, and you're going to have oversold Bitcoin, right? Which means finally we're going to have the entire market cap oversold, therefore we can restart the cycle. Okay, so this for me, yes, we're seeing down over here, but it's also telling me at any point, maybe possibly a little bounce, right, when it finds some support. But don't think altcoins are just fully in the clear, which really means it's time for a mindset shift. The mindset is we need to start thinking about the next plays. We need to start thinking about you need to start getting ready for the next run again. Because if we're going for new lows again now, and this is the capitulation, right? We are getting to areas of where a local bottom is going to come in. And we are going to restart the cycle, which means we are going to have altcoin legs again and Bitcoin strong push again, right? So again, we're clarifying where we can buy Bitcoin, but we really got to start looking at altcoins as a whole, which got me to something that I want to speak around, is the quality of altcoins that we are accumulating. Now, I think the days of meme coins and all these things are basically, these are community-based tokens. So yes, crypto we had blockchain, right? We had things we can transact, right? But we also had community, and that was the cool thing, right? In a world full of robots right now, community is very important. But for me, those are going to be seasonal runs, right? They're not going to hold well to downside. They're not going to have long-term futures. They're going to be super volatile for the rest of these alt runs that we have, right? Your meme coins or things like that, which means that crypto is getting to this maturity level where it's time to start taking it serious. If we want to get trillions of dollars into the crypto market, we need to start tapping, right, the real narratives that make sense. So it got me to a couple of things of like, okay, if I look at the next 2-3 years, AI is definitely one of the best narratives, right? AI is one that I think is coming in at a storm. Okay, I think there's going to be so much stuff being built with AI, and it's going to be a lot of hype around that. However, I don't think coins and projects that are building cool AI tools are going to do well. I think there's going to be so many of them. I think it's AI tokens that are building in the ecosystem of AI, right? That are really focusing on the agents, that's focusing on the GPU power, right? And all of these different things, this for me makes sense. So I'm going to speak about alts, why some alts are pumping right now, and alts that I really think are important to accumulate on this dump. Because as this dump's coming, we're getting an opportunity to buy the next blue chips for the next run again. There will be another run at some point, and there will be life-changing money to be made. Okay, but I do think these alt seasons and these alt legs that we've seen in the past has started to shift. Okay, the next one is real-world assets. For me, traditional finance coming into crypto, right? Coming on-chain. And I think that is something to pay attention to for when you're buying altcoins right now, is this whole real-world traditional finance coming to crypto. I think if crypto wants to be taken seriously and it wants trillions of dollars in, it needs to start adapting to those mindsets and the big money, right? So that is another topic that I think is super important to pay attention to, right? Decentralized trading, for me, is another big narrative to pay attention to, right? Everyone wants this decentralized, right? That was the whole point of crypto, and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Privacy tokens, right? These, for me, are the plays where I think there's a lot of money to be made in the future, okay? And that, for me, is something to really pay attention to. So again, let's get back here now to the altcoins. So now that I've said that, I'm going to speak around the chart now, and then I'm going to start jumping into the altcoins that I think are true value right now, and why some of them are ripping, and why I think some are really good to accumulate on this dip-off, and to just accumulate for as long as we're having these pullbacks. Pay attention to strong levels where you're buying them. So again, where altcoins are at right now, this for me is a simple retest that we are seeing today. Between today, possibly tomorrow. After that, we are looking at a possible downside push, okay? That downside push means downside to the areas of a possible higher low, okay? And this for me is a bounce of Bitcoin at 60,000. And if we lose 60,000, we are looking at new lows for alts, right? So that is the concern right now. Yes, we do have a higher low, but we need Bitcoin to bounce on 60K. Now, the good sign is there's a trend on top, and we can allow it to do what it needs to do first. No problem. That is where we're going to pay attention, right? The key here is to still keep things incredibly simple. Now, again, what's the big concern with us losing support on altcoins and Bitcoin losing support now, and it's now at 65,000? This is still a crazy chart right now, right? Which is the stock market, S&P. Guys, this thing is still not breaking through the highs. And yes, it's looking exciting, and it can possibly, everyone's maybe getting hyped around it. For me, I'm worried. I'm worried that there is a 8 to 10% drop in the stock market incoming, right? We are sitting right at the top here again, multiple green days, and we are still not breaking through it, right? When I jump into the futures today, I see that we are getting a short-term rejection, okay? And we are making an uprising wedge, which means if we start losing to drop this, and starting to drop this area here, right, we could be seeing a nice strong drop of up to anywhere between 8 and 10%. That should take us to new lows in the crypto market, right? And that should give us a push into support. So again, I don't think S&P is too bearish, that it's bearish for long time frame, but I do think a fat red candle at any point that brings us down here can be between a week or two, okay? And then I think we start resetting again and start building our way to the upside. All right, that for me is what I think can take us over the line of getting these ridiculously cheap price. And again, what I'm seeing here is I don't think the dumps are going to last too long. I think they can be fast, but I don't think they're going to sit there for too long. I think once they have bounced, and like I said on Bitcoin as well, is once we have found a bounce zone. So let's say here's Bitcoin now, and over this next week or two, right, we find a drop. I think we're going to pick up, and we're going to do something like that. And then I think we can start moving up again. So I don't think that this low here, right, will be retested again. I think it's going to be a shakeout that will come quick, which means very likely if we do get this drop, and let's say we go to $40-something thousand on Bitcoin, it's not going to be there for that long. And from there, we see an uprise, accumulation, and then start moving up. So cheeky limit orders on everything for me is one of the biggest plays right now, right? For now, while we're sitting to wait to see how bearish are things about to get. Now, again, coming through over here to the Dixie, right? Dixie is getting bullish today. Dollar's getting bullish. So again, for me, the dollar, if I look at the chart right now and I'm trading this token, right, I'm looking for a push up over here, and then I'm looking for possible downside. So this for me indicates pullback, right? Pullback in the traditional markets, some strength into the dollar. People get worried, right? Get out of assets, get into the dollar, okay? And a nice rally up. So this is another sign to pay attention. And if I look at oil today, oil is bouncing. We've been speaking around the oil bounce. It is making an uprising wedge here at the moment, okay? And it is telling me, hey, this can happen. So maybe there's some escalation or something in the world that can possibly come from this, right? But the chart is telling me there's some strength incoming on oil right now. If it decides to pull back, there are still supports here. Just telling me that, hey, next 2-3 weeks, right? We don't need to flip bullish too quickly. Let's rather pay attention to the strategy right now and pay attention on where we're buying great things at great levels. Okay, then let's get into the altcoin plays. Okay, now I want to speak around a couple of things. So again, on this dip off gives you opportunities for ETH, right? My golden zone entry is at $1,600. I think it's a great entry for ETH for the long term at 1,600. And I think in the intro, if Bitcoin decides to hold 60K and that dominance continues to drop, we might hold 1.7, right, on ETH. Okay, when it comes to Solana, Sol hit the first target. I gave it to you guys yesterday and it hit it perfectly, right? $73. However, Bitcoin wants to go to 60K. Okay, we are looking at $60. So I personally, like I said, if I had $1,000 now today, right, $300, which is 30% for me, I'm accumulating some Solana right here. Okay, and the rest is sitting in limit orders here between the early 60s to the late $50. I think it's incredible entries when it comes to Solana, right? Same thing on AVAX. Okay, on this AVAX, I got $8 and I got $7. Right, so there's a lot of good, and we'll go through a ton of these now later on in the show. We're going to jump onto WEEX and we're going to go through a ton of the altcoins. But I want to speak around a couple of these altcoins. So the first one that I want to show you guys is something's happening, right? Market's coming down and tokens are going up, right? Some of them are really starting to move. Again, they are falling under those narratives that I spoke about previously, right? They're either falling under AI, they're falling under privacy tokens, right? They're falling under GPUs, right, in AI. GPUs is a big thing, guys. Yes, we can build all this AI stuff, but GPUs and computing power is super, super, super important, right? So the AI space, decentralized trading, I see decentralized trading is also waking up nicely. I see Lighters waking up today, bunch of different tokens. So let's go through the first one here, which is Ondo, right? Because again, these things are pumping on short time frame, but we need to look at these things on the high time frame and say, hey, is this one of the blue chips to pay attention for the next bull cycle? We have to start changing the brain to be thinking around next bull cycle, right? If you can be incredibly bullish in a very, very, very bearish market, right? You have the courage to actually accumulate and buy in those times. Okay, so let's look around this over here. So Ondo's got some news. The major scatter right now is that Ondo is preparing a perpetual futures platform connected to tokenized real-world assets. So again, for them, traditional finance is super important, right? They're basically betting that the next $1 trillion, right, that comes into crypto will be on things like stocks and retail and all these different things. Okay, so when it comes to the chart side, it's making this massively big flag at the moment. Okay, and if you see this over here, big flag. So plays that I'm seeing here is I'm seeing something like that, okay? Or a big trigger point, it will be us breaking through the top of this wedge. So high time frame, if I zoom out now and I look at accumulation, it looks like a really good area of where to accumulate Ondo because this thing ain't promised on going that much lower because that dominance is dropping, right? It's basically accumulating this thing between the 35 and the 45 cent mark. The next big target for me when it comes to this token, right, is these mid-range areas, which is up to this 87 to 90 cent mark, which means that once we're through this bearish patch here, there is a big short squeeze from these highs all the way up to the areas of up to 100% from here, right? And I do actually think that this could be a token that can break highs the next cycle. Okay, so when it comes to short time frame, just be aware that it's in a wedge. Okay, the key is to buy support. Okay, but showing you right now that there is a big bullish pattern that's being formed and very likely one of the stronger tokens to be rallying. Then we look at NEAR. Now, NEAR is getting super interesting. This thing's on the verge of breaking a weekly, guys. Okay, so again, we gave entries here at 1.8, which was good. Okay, but now we are coming into this range high here. Now, chart-wise, I don't get straight bullish on this just yet. Bitcoin's about to possibly lose new lows, right? Alt's about to catch up, right? So if I look at this now, where I want to get bullish on this token is on this side, right? That's in case we don't want to pull back anymore. But for now, as we hear, it is showing us that strong supports are sitting at these low $2 marks. And if we do see a capitulation or a speed up zone, we could be seeing $2.3 and we could possibly seeing up to $2.1. Two big areas on where to accumulate near. Okay, now again, near for me is falling under the AI space, right? I actually got some stuff here around near to chat around. Just get it here. For them, it's AI agents. They want AI agents to interact. They want AI agents to do their own thing, right? Now, again, if you look at the old way of AI, right, it was ask ChatGPT to do something for you, right? But now what we're looking at is, hey, we want these things to do things themselves. We want them to transact themselves. We want them to work by themselves. I give them a task and it does the entire task, right? So near for me falls under an important category of focusing on something under the ecosystem when it comes to AI. Okay, let's jump in here. Okay, next one. ENA. Guys, ENA's had a strong pump. I checked it this morning on the charts. Nice, good 15, 16%. But this all just came from a Coinbase partnering. So I don't think it's a real high time frame pump just yet. So just keep aware of that. Okay, because again, some alts are looking exciting and a 20% move in a red market looks great. But I'm not seeing this as like, oh, this is a big high time frame, something great here. Yes, they're partnering with Coinbase, which is cool. Okay, but pay attention to this big weekly wedge. If we see a breakout of this wedge over here, then I'm seeing strength, then I'm seeing a real move. So yes, this could be a start of a strong move. This thing's really bottomed high time frame. Okay, but I want to see us clear outside here. Otherwise, it's just a short-term little bit of hype that's coming into the market. Then, guys, one of my big plays that I'm paying attention to, right? I spoke around GPU power. Here we go. Is render. Guys, render for me is one of the big opportunities. I don't think it's going to get much cheaper. Okay, again, I will speak around if it does. Okay, but for me, it's breaking out a monthly trend line. Okay, it's got one more big short-term resistance. Again, the moment you see a small bounce in Bitcoin, you see a 7% bounce in render, right? But the moment it gets through these major highs of 2.4, I'm seeing a rally up to $4, right? So this for me on a high time frame, something to accumulate for the next cycle. I think render is, again, hitting the narrative perfectly, and chart is showing me a great risk to reward. This is me being quite conservative to say, hey, we just go test here on the high time frames. You know, that's a 1 to 5 risk to reward right now. We could easily see something up over there, right? And we can obviously easily see possibly higher in the future as well. So render is another big one that's showing strength today. I don't think, hey, worrying about this trading on the short time frame too much, but I do think high time frame, it is a big opportunity and a token to pay attention to. Okay, and then we also have Fetch AI, very much in the space of agents as well. Them interacting, them doing their own thing, right? Fetch AI is falling under the same boat. If we look at Fetch, just to show you guys this, Fetch is one of the stronger bouncing tokens right now. So it breaks out, it retests. Looks like a possible strong token right now, right, to pay attention to accumulate. So again, one of the runners that I think are going to do very well in the next cycle. Okay, guys, now it is time. Do me a favor, I'm going to have a sip of water. Smash up the like button. And we're going to jump onto your guys' charts. On Wednesdays, we do your charts. We jump onto, let's get in here. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Let's jump on. Bring on your tokens, guys. We're going to be charting on WEEX. Let's go through it. Okay. Let's see. SUI. Let's jump through on SUI. Okay, so SUI, guys, again, they got problems with the blockchain at the moment. So you are seeing a bit of exaggeration. I still think it's a great project for the future. But yes, when there's FUD or when things are not working, it does not look great for the exchange. But it can give us incredibly cheap prices. So again, when it comes to high time frame, we have to be looking high time frame right now. AAA grade entries right now. Okay, and if we look at that, there are some supports incoming. We're actually hitting the range lows right now, which is crazy. But it looks like the next big supports are sitting close to these 60-cent mark. So again, if we look at a laddering system here, right, I'm basically looking at, hey, accumulating some at 78, 79 cents, accumulating at 69 cents, and definitely having some more limit orders at the late 50-cent mark. Right now, it's about buying. After that, what we should see is we should see a nice bounce up over the next few weeks where we bounce up, test the trend, and a little bit later on, we start to break up and start moving closer to the $2 to $3 mark. Right, so again, this could be anywhere up to a 5 to a 8x entry. Again, no financial advice. This is my charting and the areas, just purely basing off levels and charts, right? And risk to reward. Risk to reward is really good right now. Okay, there is Sui. Next one, Solana. I did speak around Sol, guys. Go watch a little bit earlier in the show, but let's quickly go through it. So let's go through Solana right now. See, I was trading a lot over the last few weeks. Okay. Sol. So again, guys, Sol for me, $73. Right, $73 is where I'm buying something. And then the rest, I'm looking at buys at around $60. So just to mark it out here. High time frame fibs and resistance and supports. Again, I'm looking at a possible higher low here. That's why for me, I'll be buying some here at $74 to $73. And then I have the lower target of $60. Anywhere between $58 and $62 are my next areas where to accumulate. After that, again, as you can see, there's a high time frame trend, which means I'm looking at a bounce, a test, and over the next few weeks, start making its way back up to the 120. Probably later on in the year is what I'm looking for over there. Okay, BNB. Let's go BNB. Okay, so here's the concerns with BNB right now, losing the weekly trend. Right. The second concern is we are in a wedge, which means we lose that wedge, we start making our way to the downside. So again, if I look at my kind of targets on Bitcoin itself, right, Bitcoin approaching the 60,000 can very much have BNB possibly coming down to the late or to the mid 500s, right, between $550 and $600, possible good accumulation area. Again, if Bitcoin decides to go lower, we could be looking at close to the $400 mark. Again, probability, right, probably higher that we bounce here than down here, okay, but I would be prepared for both. Okay, there's also another nice little buy close to the late 500s. So again, if I had $1,000, the way I would do it is probably buy 20% here, okay, buy around 40% here, and leave the 40 to either buy later on a trend break, which I'll show you guys now. Because what we want to see is once there's a possible bottom here, right, we want to see a bounce and break a trend. Then I'll be adding in the rest in case I miss the $400 entries over here. Things like BNB, the first target is the mid-range, which will be $1,000. Right, target, and then obviously I do think there's a possible new highs next cycle. However, I think centralized exchanges, I don't know if they're going to be doing as great. Obviously, I think we'll continue to trade on them, but I don't know if they're going to do as great. I think decentralized exchanges, there's a little bit more opportunities when it comes to growth side. I think these market caps are quite massive right now. Okay, what is midnight? Do we have what is it, guys? If I'm bringing any community tokens and I don't know what it is, please do your research. Okay. Midnight. Okay, so again, you want to see this within tokens. You want to see this type of pattern. So the pattern's good. Okay, so the breakout happens on that trend over there. For now, you kind of, it's basically showing this, right, until it gets out of that. So I wouldn't really catch a falling knife here. I'd wait for momentum to move on a high time frame and a nice close outside of the trend. Okay, Cardano. Let's go Cardano. Guys, if you don't have a WEEX exchange right now, there's a link below in the description. There's a survey. What tokens do you want to see on the streams? Right? And you get a giveaway. How many giveaways, Matt? How many giveaways, bro? Let us know. We got to, it's bear market. Okay.
So there's a
here is the YouTube for WEEX's channel. Okay. And if you're looking for a exchange to open up, here is WEEX over here to open up. You can join, use the link below. You do get sign-up bonuses. Okay. Let's jump back in. Okay, so there's night. Next one, Cardano. Let's look at ADA. How many likes are we on here? Get the likes up, guys. Smash it up, smash it up, smash it up. Alts died last cycle. They did. That's why I think it's so important to focus on the real narratives, you know? And I think for me, like 4 of them are highlighting right now. It's really changed. You know what, guys? Last cycle, we had the right to think every altcoin would pump, right? That's kind of just what crypto's been doing. But the more you kind of think about it, that crypto is starting to mature, right? And we want trillions to come into crypto. It has to move to the assets that's going to do so, right? To the narratives that are going to do so. Crypto needs to be taken seriously, right? I don't think meme coins are gonna help that anymore. I still think they'll have runs. Okay, yes, get the likes up. Let's go. Get it up, get up, get up. And I bring more altcoins to you guys right now. Get it up. We've got tons to go through. I'll be checking that in the next few minutes. Okay, so Cardano, a little bit of a falling knife situation here at the moment. Wow, look at that. Really big falling knife situation there. Let's jump into the weekly. Let's see where we're at. Wow, Cardano is starting to get cheap. How's that? Okay, so there is absolutely no strength there right now. Again, if you are looking at a possible drop-off of Bitcoin losing another, possible 10, 20% mark, it's very likely you're going to see a possible 15 to a 20 cent. We're actually close to 20 cents right now. We're between 15 and 17 cents as the next supports. Right, you can see this wedge. You can see the support of this wedge over here. I think it's a great area to accumulate. I even think where we are now to slowly accumulating, if you are still a believer in Cardano, I think it's a good area. Where we are going to look to see strength is when we're outside of this wedge, right? Just meaning that, hey, you can just accumulate, but you don't have to accumulate everything right now. Outside of this trend is where we'll start to see some strength. And again, the next clear resistance where we should get over the next few months when the market shows strength again is up to the 50-cent mark. Right, that's the first major target. And obviously, yes, we've got higher targets, but that for me, I don't know if they've been growing much, guys. I don't know if they got the future like they used to. Still got one of the best communities out there, but I don't know if it's the same anymore like it used to be. So a trade like this, where I'm looking at 20 cents to 50 cents is a good trade. And for me, TPs there make sense, right? To think that it's going to go to all-time highs, right? I'll keep some, but I don't know if this market is the same as what it used to be. We've got to be a little bit more fussy. And we got to see these tokens working hard in bear markets. We want to see what these tokens are doing right now, where there is strength and they are growing and the communities are growing and the size of them are growing, right? They're innovating, they're moving to new technology, right? We want to see these type of flows happen for us to gain conviction. So again, use this bear market to look at that portfolio and say, hey, all the tokens that I hold, are they really doing stuff right now? Are they really building? Are they really being creative? Are they really coming up with stuff? If not, we got to remember things are starting to change. Right, and it's very likely that hard work and being smart in the industry is going to pay off the most. Okay, let's jump into the next ones. Let's go. What are we seeing? What are we seeing? Link. Chain link. Okay, so again, big problem with chain link. Let's actually make it big. I don't know why I haven't made it big. Okay. Let's go through Chainlink. So again, very similar to the rest of the alts. I think it's only just starting to catch up now. Okay, there is some support where incoming. So there is a support on a possible lower bounce here at $8. Okay, the next support's obviously at $7, but let's speak around possibly lower. All right, if we are looking at lower, I'm going to go here just so that I can see a little bit more data on where we're looking at going lower. Wow, it looks like the crazy. Okay, so again, my golden entry is the early $7. Right, I do think that after that, so just to show you here. So again, I got $7 over here. Okay, and then you do have range low sitting at $6. So again, we kind of got to think of the worst here, that we want to come down to these areas. But for me, a big area between $7 and $8 is like where I'm accumulating my bag, right? I don't need to catch the exact bottom, but I do think that that's a very strong bottomish area. Okay, then after that, you draw this trend. Gives you a bit of an idea of time frame wise of how long it can take to start to recover. Remember, trend lines give me an idea on timing as well. Okay, so basically saying that, hey, something like this happens, drops, and pushes through. Okay, so this will be another area of where I would want to add more to the position once I'm happy, right? Confirmation. And then the clear resistances after that is at $12. Okay, and then we have $16. Probably two very good TP points. Whatever you're accumulating, whatever you're building right now, it is best to also set your TPs and your intentions before taking the trade, right? And all you have to do next cycle is stick to it, right? That's the important part. Do it now when you're in this mindset of like, ooh, money is important, right? So then when it doesn't become important anymore, you don't change your mindset too much. Lighter, yes. So decentralized, guys. Centralized trading it's a big one at the moment. I see many of the centralized exchanges are making, they're creating DEXs as well. So let's go check Light. Nice run. Let's see if there's any other, a little bit more data. Let's see. No, it's not that one. So I can get a little bit more data here. Okay, so again, forming the nice cup, which is cool. The big weekly breakouts happened over here. Again, these weekly breakouts are quite important. Okay, then broke out into a possible disbelief wave, right? And I think now we might be going into disbelief wave or looking at a possible hope run. So again, big resistances now, okay, is up in these areas of close to the $2 mark. There is a resistance right here where you are right now. So keep that in mind, right? So it means I'm not really buying much. I do think Lights is still good at a high time frame to accumulate, but for me, buys are kind of sitting at support levels, right? Sitting close here to around the 1.3-ish or so. So my plays here is there's a resistance here and there's a resistance here, right? So my kind of idea here is maybe something like this. It starts to rally up, right? Or it breaks through here, then pulls back and then rallies up. Right, but for me, I'd rather break through, turn into support to be buying, or buying more down over here. TP levels, if it's a leverage position, it's good TPs now. Otherwise, the $1.9 is kind of where we're looking at. After that, yes, there's resistance at 2.6. So that could be visited in the future. Okay, let's jump in. Let's go. How are these likes doing? Let's get the likes up. Grow it up, grow it up, grow up. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Share the sourworms. Maddie. Cardano community is fighting. Yes, yes, yes. I'm hoping they, again, such a strong community. I hope that there's some life over there. Guys, I will see you on Friday. Go to the Sniper Trading channel. I'm dropping something called Chart of the Day. I'm dropping 3 of the most important charts that I'm seeing every day. Go and subscribe to that channel. Type in Sniper Trading on YouTube, and you'll catch extra shows outside of banter shows over there, as well as recorded education that I make on that stream. Lots of love. See you guys tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.